All right, so I just showed up for jury duty and I was juror number 8. But I'm going home now. And I sat in the parking lot long enough to share my parking pass for the day with someone else, because that's a nice thing to do. But how I got out of jury duty is what we're talking about in this video. So what I did is, legitimately, my throat was sore this morning. It was. It's been sore actually the last couple of days, but I couldn't foresee that being the case today. So until I woke up this morning, and you can't call in because they're not actually even there at that point. But anyway, I'm letting them know, hey, I paid for parking for the day. I walked however many blocks it was to the juror meeting area, and I went up to the door and I was like, I don't think it's COVID, but literally my throat is sore. And it's sore enough that it's uncomfortable to eat breakfast. So it's something. I don't know what it is, probably just whatever, bacteria, virus, I don't know. Anyway, so they said, of course, we can't have you in this tight, congested area with all these other people. That's not a good idea. I agree. But that wasn't, my original plan or anything. I'm not lying about it. So I say, be honest. So if that's not the case. But I wanted to point out 2 or 3 things that I think are kind of messed up with the juror system. So here's one of them. If, you're calling me in, I'm a younger person, I don't really have a lot of life experience. You know what I mean? Like, you're asking people what it's like to go to prison for 20 years of their life, like a life sentence. If my case was that high of a situation, is that something that I'm willing to, am I willing to put someone away for 20 years, take them away from their families? And I really hope people think about that. Yeah, if they did something terrible and that's the justifiable action for the whatever crime they committed, I think that makes sense. But I think we should call a little bit older people to jury. Let's say people that are retired. First of all, they have the time. So in my case, I still had to show up for jury duty, even though I'm the sole breadwinner for my family. If I miss work a couple of days, we could lose our house. I mean, that seems kind of off, but when you work for yourself, I don't have a guaranteed paycheck. So if I miss the 2 or 3 jobs that I have to do and somehow lose those contracts, and I don't get any more contracts, that's a huge risk. I could lose my house. I could lose, my family could not have a place to stay. I could not be able to feed them. This is a big deal. Anyway, they don't consider that. That's one thing I would change. If you're the sole breadwinner for your family, you should not be going to jury duty. Another thing that I think they should change is they legitimately need to think about the situation with the parking and stuff, because I called a number to find out where I'm supposed to park. They have all the jurors parking in the same spot. So if there was somebody interested in jury tampering, it'd be very easy for them to figure out who the jurors were. Now, I know it would be hard for them to figure out which case they were choosing jurors for, but maybe they would figure it out eventually, keep track of their, plates and stuff like that, because they're going to be parking there every time during the whole process of the court case. It wouldn't be hard to figure out which jury they were on, I'm sure. I would just assume they would be able to figure that out. So I think they should change that. They should have people park wherever, give them multiple opportunities to park in all different kinds of places, because when you call the number, which anyone can call, you find out where they're parking, what time they're going to be there, and where they're going. So if you're watching closely, they're going to the same spot. They are obviously part of the jury. And at my point in time, it was just the selection. But still, I think a criminal could figure this out. So I think that should be changed. Nobody else should know where everybody's parking. They shouldn't know anything about, you know, the day-to-day schedule of the people that are going into jury. So that should be changed. That's one thing I think. The other thing is, I think they should call older people in. I think that would make a lot of sense. You know, call in some older people so that way you have people with a little bit more life experience coming into the courthouse. People with life experience, I think, should be the only people on the jury. You know, calling in people who are young, I think that might be a mistake. You know, like you haven't lived long enough to understand what it would be like to be away from our family for 20 years or something like that. I think if the punishment doesn't fit the crime. So I'm in Oregon. Minimum mandatory sentencing means if you punch somebody in the nose who's talking trash to you or something, and you break any bone in their face, you can go away for 7 years in prison. That's stupid. Hey, it's not cool to hit somebody. It's not cool to do any of that stuff. That's not acceptable. But if the court has the power to send you to prison for 7 years for punching somebody in the nose, that's not okay. You know, that's not acceptable. The punishment should match the crime. You punch somebody in the nose, and if you're going to do minimum mandatory sentencing for something like that, the minimum should be much lower than 7 years or 6 years or whatever it is. It should be maybe 1 year. But even a year away from your family, they could suffer a lot because of that. How about, you know, some counseling? How about some other things the first time there's a problem, and then, you know, work up from there? Because how are we going to fix a problem by taking somebody who has aggression issues and throwing them in prison with people who obviously have more aggression issues? And just knowing, because I've been to prison for 5 years, just knowing what it's like to be in prison, you're probably going to get in another fight. You're probably going to get in a lot more fights just to protect yourself. And it's going to change your mentality to a place people don't really want you to be. You don't want to be that distrusting, you know, fight for your life every second kind of personality. It's just not good for society. So prison is a problem, but I do agree with the rule of law. I agree with, you know, I'm glad I went to prison. I'm glad that I went to prison because it helped me make life changes. So for me, it was beneficial, but I've seen so many people in there, they're just going in and coming out, going back in, coming out. One guy was in and out of there 7 times while I was there. 7 times he was in and out of prison because it was like a day camp for him. Free room and board. They don't make them work. It's a choice. It's stupid. Like, I believe in hard labor. Like, if you're going to go to prison, I believe in hard labor. Whatever it is, whatever you can do. You're physically unable, that's fine. We're still going to work you to death. You're going to pay. You're going to do all the stuff nobody wants to do. You'll be on the toilet cleaning crew if that's all you can handle, or the trash pickup crew, or the something. There is got to be more work for people, because I think hard work is what's going to help. I worked hard the whole time I was in there. I fought fires for the state. I built trails. I cleaned up parks and did all sorts of stuff, all sorts of hard work. It's not the hardest I've ever worked, except for maybe the firefighting, but it was really beneficial to me to work hard. And it was a choice. I chose to work. And they're not making them work. That's where I would, maybe make some changes. Make them work. Hey guys, I will go off on a rant if I get a chance. So I'm stopping myself now, and I just want to say, I don't think people should get out of jury duty. This is how it worked out for me, just by fluke, how it worked out. And, that's what it is. But just to bring it all in, we need to all be focused on ways we can make changes, positive changes. That way we can grow. And I feel like some stuff is broken. And if you feel like it's broken too, I hope that you'll put yourself in a position where you can start to work with others to fix some of these problems. I think we should get rid of minimum mandatory sentencing. And if that's something that you feel strongly about, I hope that you'll vote appropriately. I hope that you will make moves to bring attention to the situation, because minimum mandatory sentencing is not good for our society. It's not something that's beneficial. So check in next time. Hopefully we'll come up with something cool to talk about. And yeah, leave a comment below. Let's talk about it.